So it's come to this. Yet again, another start me up. We have the Georgian Viking, Guram Kutateladze, representing Sweden and Georgia, became a Swedish citizen in 2019. He's set to welcome in on short notice Brazil's Elves Brener. And when I looked at this fight, and I threw a tweet out there as soon as I saw it was announced, I said, from 50,000 feet, this fight seems really silly.
It does.
But then I went back and I did the deep dive, and my brain played a little bit of a trick on me, because for Guram Kutateladze, for me, for you, for everybody that's out there, we all kind of consider this guy the 16th lightweight, but we just don't get to see him fight. He's had a knee injury, he's had a rib injury, he's had visa issues, not only plague his fight that he was supposed to have a month ago against Jamie Mullarkey, but it's been a constant issue for him. So hopefully we get Guram competing in Vegas this weekend, but it's kind of a short notice, throw together type of fight, because Elves Brener was originally due one Jordan Levitt out of the fight, Guram accepts it, and now all of a sudden we're in a strange position. If you consider for Brener, he made his UFC debut earlier on this year, down in Australia as a giant underdog against Zubair Tukhugov, and Brener came into that one, was he a featherweight? Was he a lightweight? We don't really know, and then all of a sudden you ultimately have one Zubair Tukhugov missing weight. So in that fight, it takes place. At the end of it, I'm all in a tizzy. I threw it out there on Twitter. I didn't understand the scoring one bit, and now my brain is in a blender, it's in a pretzel, it's wherever you want to put it. But going back and watching the tape on both of these guys, and really considering all avenues, I think this is a closer fight than just on the initial inspection.
This is what I like about the fight. Brenner's going to take the fight to Kutateladze, and I think that's always going to be the key. Because if Guram's allowed the space to just operate on his own range, he's a pretty difficult guy to beat, right? He does have that one-of-one athleticism where he has good power. He has really fast strikes too, and that really has been the key. Go back and watch the Gamrot fight. You see the speed with which he's able to counter not only the wrestling, but the strikes of Gamrot as well. And I've always thought that, hey, Kutateladze, you bring it up. It's always been a, hey, oh, by the way with him. Because if you just talk about the skill set, there's really not a lot to critique. He has great takedown defense. He has good offensive takedowns too. And he does have great physical strength. It's not really something that you can gauge. It's very difficult to just go out there and say. But if you go back and watch any of his fights, he can muscle his way out of very difficult positions. But the thing that I love about this matchup is Brener, and we saw this a lot in the Tukhugov fight, he likes to work at not a long range, but a long middle range. He's kind of specific with where he is. He likes the front kicks up the middle, and he does have a very good jab too. And I think those two weapons are going to be really key in this matchup against Kutateladze, because Guram does like to plant his feet and then set up for the roundhouse kick and really emphasize power on his strikes more. If Brener can get into the range where he does find success, and if he can break up some of that timing of Guram, I think it can make it a really interesting fight. But at that point, that's when Guram can close the distance, start to use some of that strength, use the clinch work, and that's where the fight is going to be really interesting. I just think for Brener, the activity is really going to be the key for him, especially on the feet, because I don't think he can go 1-for-1 in power shots with Guram.
And for Guram, you might as well stick with Guram, because it's not a cuckoo clock, it's a Kutateladze clock. So if you do consider it and you look at it, I mean, Kutateladze trains out of one of those gyms that's going to get you ready for a fight like this. Exactly. And it's not just his own gym being House of Samurai over there in Sweden. It's also All-Stars. We have two All-Stars fighters on this card. Ivana Petrovic, who's going to be making her UFC debut, taking on Dread Luana Carolina. But Guram mainly out of that gym. You knew him as the friend of Khamzat Chimaev before he made the UFC. But you've seen it out of Guram. The fights that he had with Brave, the knockout win over Felipe Silva, UFC debut, that was kind of wild. But if you compare the gyms for a second, was Elves Brener in the infamous sauna picture with the Shoot the Box boys? You're f***ing right, he was. You know he's a ride or die. So for Elves Brener, he's one of those guys that I had very low expectations on him coming into the UFC. I mean, if you looked at it, Zubair Tukhugov was a minus 560 favorite when the fight started against Brener. Going into the third round, they showed those live odds, minus 750. I went back and watched that fight with the sound off, and that was the first fight, obviously, I watched to get ready for any of these videos today. And boy, did the commentary mess with my mind, because they kept showing the stats, they kept emphasizing how good Tukhugov was at hitting the head, but they de-emphasized the fact that Brener was going to the body, that he was going to the legs with the kicks, and after a while, you had that hairline cut for Tukhugov that definitely played into it, but he was limp and kind of lame on his front leg, and it really caused some issues. Now, Brener, you saw the combinations. He'd go thudding kick, and then he'd go to the left hook to the body. The trouble that Brener has, though, is he tends to drop his hands a little bit, and as he drops his hands, it opens up the right shot from his opponents. And for a guy like Guram, a nice right cross, you saw that big overhand left that isn't really a big strike that's accentuated for orthodox fighters, but he was able to throw it when he was fighting Mateusz Gamrot. It's just one of those fights where Brener could get ahead with some of those overall numbers. It's just at the end of it, they might say, well, all the strikes to the head, they go to Guram. Guram wins the fight. I was very, very impressed by Brener from age 20, where he came in fighting less than stellar competition down in Brazil, to fighting Gabriel Santos, who ended up as an LFA champ, and then he ended up getting finished by David Onama last weekend. All that to say, though, from watching Brener's tape and getting ready for the Takugov fight, where I was really low on Brener, I've seen marked improvements in every single fight where he has gotten better. He has really honed in his striking, and Brenner's one of those unique fighters to where he is a Muay Thai fighter. Majority of his wins are by submission, and you see the bread get buttered when he does get it down to the mat, too.
Exactly, and that is the nice thing about him. He's not somebody who is so one note like some other fighters on this card. We're going to talk about people who really only have one aspect to their game. But for Brener, that is the nice thing, like you said. He can hurt you on the feet, get the submission after it does go to the ground. I think he is going to struggle, though, with the physical strength of a guy like Guram, because you bring it up, Brenner's not a big guy for this division, at least against some of the more elite fighters.
He is tall, and he does have nice reach,
but I wouldn't say he's not a filled-in fighter. And for Guram, he's a lengthy, rangy guy. He's a muscular fighter, too. And I think it is a difficult weight cut for him to get down to 155. So you have to assume, hey, that might compromise him on the back end. But I've never seen his cardio completely fail him, at least in the UFC. And these are high-activity fights that he's been involved in the Ismagulov fight and in the Mateusz Gamrot fight previous to that. I agree with everything you say about Brener and all of the noticed improvements that he has made fight in and fight out. But it's a big step up, I believe, to take on a guy like Guram at the end of the day.
And Elves Brener, when he fought against one Zubair Takugov, Brener was the 41st ranked lightweight in Brazil on Tapology. And there's a lot of them, but still not up to snuff whatsoever. If you click on their individual pages, it's 106 versus the 20th lightweight in the world. So Brener, another giant step up. Yeah. But again, he does get better and better. His takedowns are a little unorthodox. You're not going to see freestyle takedowns, double leg, single leg. It's a lot of body lock, trip throws. It's a lot of body weight takedowns. If
Magomedov can't have a lot of success doing it, I think Brener will too.
We'll see how it goes out there, but a lot of fun when you do look at a matchup like this. And for me, I look at a guy like Brener. He does traditionally fight from the orthodox stance, and he uses a lot of boxing combinations there. When he goes to southpaw, it's like Charles Jourdain. We're shelling up big time, and he does get hit by a lot of hooks, just like Jourdain, but he loves to go with that body kick from southpaw.
I think he just throws more kicks with the left side, though, because even when he's orthodox, he throws that lead leg quite a bit. Like, he'll throw it as a leg kick, he'll throw it as a lead kick. It's just a lot of his kicks come from that left leg.
Yeah, a lot of body kicks from the southpaw, a lot of head kicks as well. You look at the odds in the matchup, Kutateladze is heavily favored in this fight. We'll have a look at the Tapology votes. Surprise to us as they are to you, Matt. I'm going to say over-under. I think the fans are wild, and they're not big Brener fans, so I'm going to say over under 90% for the Georgian Viking in this one.
I'll defend the fans a little bit. Even if you're not a big Brener fan, it is difficult to just look there and think, okay, you have one vote. It's for Guram or it's for Brener. The majority of fans are probably going to go with Guram. I'm going to say it's above.
It's above 90. It is above 90. So 699 total votes. 96 for Guram Kutateladze. 59% by decision. 33% by knockout. And again, going back and watching that Brener fight, I scored the first round. I said it was close. I thought Brener got the first round. Second round, Takugov. Third round was close. I thought Takugov did enough, but the scorecards, they were all over the place. There was 130-27 for Brener in and amongst that. I do like Kutateladze in the matchup, and I think the fact that he can dig that hook to the body, Brenner's one of those guys, as I said, he shells up a lot like a Charles Jourdain, where Charles will do something different. He'll crouch a little bit when he wants to kind of dig it to the body. You saw that against Shane Burgos in that fight. If he's trying to defend some of those body strikes, Brener still keeps a high tie stance, and he doesn't necessarily defend the body shots. That opens up the shots of a guy like Guram Kutateladze to the body. And for Guram, in the fight against Ismagulov, in the fight that he had against Gamrot, it was 12 and 28 body shots total. 34.7% of his overall strikes went to the body against those two opponents who are top 15 guys. Spider-Man meme, seeing Ismagulov also on this card. But for me, I like the body work out of Guram, and I think the fact that he throws a nice right cross, a nice left hook, and he complements his kicks in all of that package, I like Guram in the fight.
I like Guram in this fight too, but I'm going to just admit something about myself. I thought he lost his debut and won his other fight. Like, I had predicted, not even predicted, but I just think I thought he lost to Gamrot. I I know he did good with his own wrestling, and he did well with his own knockdown strikes as well, but he did get controlled quite a bit in that matchup. And against Ismagulov, I thought he looked really good, and like you mentioned, those are two extremely talented fighters. Like, Ismagulov isn't the co-main event because he's some random guy at lightweight. I do have Guram, but this is an important fight because, again, all those by the ways can get erased with a really nice performance.
We'll see how it goes for Kutateladze. We saw a fighter get ready for fight after fight after fight and lose last weekend against a debuting fighter. That was Zhalgas Ismagulov against a very game Joshua Van. So both of us in this matchup going with the Georgian Viking to get the win. Let us know who you have in the matchup and some big time fights as we continue down through UFC Vegas 76. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.